what I can tell you is like, if you're doing high intensity interval 2 to 3 times a week, that's a pretty good amount. Combine that with a little bit of aerobic conditioning and the base of your training. I'm very passionate about telling people, most people should have a base of strength training in their programming. Hello and welcome to the Weaponized Body Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Ryan J. Hewitt. And today is our first episode, actually, of the Weaponized Body. And I'm excited to bring it to you. So every week, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be rotating between a topic in metabolic health, a topic in movement health, and a topic in mindset. And then the fourth podcast will be with an expert in any one of those fields. So I'm excited to bring you those topics. The Weaponized Body has 3 pillars, of course: metabolic health, movement health, and mindset health. And, the synergy and the power of those 3 together create a weaponized body. So today we're going to kick off the first episode with ways to boost testosterone naturally. This is definitely a hot topic. So something that a lot of men and women want to know more about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce testosterone, what it's for, why you should be interested in it, and ways to be able to boost your natural production of testosterone. So testosterone is, of course, an androgen hormone in your body, and it's critical for many, many functions in your body, such as, optimal cognitive and brain health, mental well-being, libido, your ability to take on and process stress. It's very important for all sorts of expressions of recovery, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a really critical hormone in the body. And it's part of the cascade of hormones that all derive from other hormones. So you may have heard of the term aromatized and whatnot. So testosterone can actually turn into estrogen. And this all depends on things like your behaviors and your body fat levels, your lifestyle, et cetera. So generally speaking, you want to avoid too much testosterone turning into estrogen. And we're going to talk about ways to make sure that you're maximizing your natural, first of all, production, but also so you have healthy amounts of testosterone aromatizing into estrogen and not too much. So, of course, one of the things that's happening these days is we have a world full of what are called estrogenics. So these are things that act like or mimic estrogen in the body. And what we're seeing is all kinds of health detriments because of it. And there's all sorts of things like chemicals and plastics and so on and so forth. Future episodes, we'll talk more about estrogenics and why you need to avoid those. But just for today, we're just going to talk about testosterone. So, of course, testosterone is made in your testes. It's also made in your adrenals. Women, testosterone comes more from their adrenals. For men, of course, it comes more from your testes. And that's what's responsible for all sorts of expressions of male characteristics in the body. But again, it's really important for both men and women when it comes to recovery, when it comes to libido health, when it comes to optimal brain health, and so on. So there's 2 main versions of testosterone you may have heard of. There is total testosterone, which is measured in the body. And then there's something called free testosterone. Now, what happens is testosterone can bind to a protein called sex hormone binding globulin. And this is a transporter of testosterone. And what happens is it attaches to testosterone and estrogen and whatnot. And the leftover testosterone that's not bound to sex hormone binding globulin is then referred to as your free testosterone. This is a number we want to pay close attention to because this is what's known as your active or like bioavailable testosterone. This is the pool of testosterone available for your body to absorb and use. So we want to make sure we've maximized the bioavailable testosterone in your body. So here are some, we're going to go through a list of things that you absolutely want to make sure that you are doing for, both men and women, really. And in no particular order, but I will stress on a couple of these as we talk about them as far as their importance. So number one, of course, this is something I have conversations with my patients about every single day. I just saw, 40 or 50 patients this morning. And at least half a dozen times, I spoke to them about full body strength training. I can't stress the importance of this enough. There's research that comes out constantly about the importance of this, throughout your lifetime for both men and women. Full body strength training, minimum 3 times a week. It doesn't mean that if 1 or 2 times isn't worth it. It just means 3 is better. I had a conversation with a young lady yesterday telling her that, 2 is great, but 3 seems to be the magic number where you're able to, carry gains week to week, and you don't feel like you're beat up and trying to recover all the time, and you're able to build momentum and actually see progress in the gym. So the things you want to prioritize when it comes to full body strength training is to make sure you're doing some forms of compound lifts. So the bodybuilding stuff's great. I've actually been on a bodybuilding journey for about a year myself, just strictly focused on mostly building muscle. I'd never put, a real solid focus on that when it comes to all of my training and my nutrition and all my focus. And it's kind of fun, for me at least. So those isolation lifts are cool. The bicep curls, the hamstring curls, the calf raises, the leg extensions, those are great. However, you want to make sure that you're always, throughout your week, making sure that there are full body compound lifts, such as squats, right? Lowering your whole body as low as you can and lifting your whole body as to full extension, preferably loaded. Of course, everybody's going to have different abilities to do that. You don't need a barbell to squat. You can use body weight. You can use dumbbells. You can use machines. Just making sure you're going through those, full range of motion, picking things up off the floor, such as doing deadlifts, straight-legged deadlifts, where you're tensioning your whole body in order to perform the movement. Bent over rows, pull-ups, those sorts of like full body efforts. One thing I'm a fan of, but very reticent to recommend to people, is doing things like metabolic conditioning or high intensity interval training. So once upon a time, I did a whole ton of CrossFit. So for at least 10 years, I was doing CrossFit up to the competitive level, to the best of my ability, at least. And one of the reasons I became so knowledgeable about testosterone was because I managed to absolutely smash my testosterone to sub 300 at one point in my life. And this was when I was in my mid to late 30s. And all kinds of things happened to me, such as inability to recover and put on muscle, despite all of my efforts with dialing in my macros, keeping my training consistent and sleeping. I just wasn't seeing results. I still had, I was still over 12, 13, 14% body fat. And one of the reasons was because my testosterone was so smashed, and it was from chronic high intensity interval training. So when you're doing it high intensity interval training, it can be a great stimulus for muscle building and, metabolic functions in your body and hormone production, but it can also, there's almost like a bell curve. There's like a max return. For everybody, they can take on a different amount. There's no real rule of thumb here. But what I can tell you is, like, if you're doing high intensity interval 2 to 3 times a week, that's a pretty good amount. Combine that with a little bit of aerobic conditioning and the base of your training. I'm very passionate about telling people, most people should have a base of strength training in their programming. So meaning like you're lifting weights and you're resting adequately between sets, recovering, lifting again to failure. Okay, so number 2, the second thing is to make sure you're eating enough protein. This is also a conversation I have constantly with my patients, especially younger people, especially women. Women notoriously have problems getting enough protein in their diet because it's so satiating. And there's been, a lot of talk about things like intermittent fasting, skipping breakfast, things like that. And it makes it very difficult to get adequate amounts of protein if you're starving yourself for most of the day. So you want to make sure you're getting, for me, there's a bunch of different ways to gauge this. There's a few different ways that I tell people to make sure they're getting enough protein as far as a measured amount. Number one, I guess the most complicated way is you get about 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. If you're not familiar with the metric system, a kilogram is about 2.2 pounds. Everybody's got a smartphone with a calculator. You could probably figure that out. So if you're like an 80 kilo person, probably myself, like a 90, 95 kilo person, meaning like I should be getting at least, 185 to 195, 200 grams of protein, which I eat a lot more than that actually myself. Another good way to gauge it is, eating a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So in other words, if you're a 250 pound person and you ideally want to be 200 pounds, you shoot for about 200 grams of protein. This kind of works for everybody because, if you're somebody who's trying to lose a lot of weight, meaning like it's not an unreasonable you're not going to get a gram of protein per pound of body weight if you're a 300 pound person and you're trying to get down to 200 pounds, if you know what I mean. So either way works pretty good. I'll say that again, 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, current body weight, or eating a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. Okay. So you want to be able to choose lean protein sources, chicken, fish, turkey, eggs, whey protein, things like that have optimal, what are called amino acid profiles. You get a full spectrum of amino acids, which stimulate muscle protein synthesis, high leucine amino acid types of proteins. In other words, if you're vegan or vegetarian, it's very, very, very difficult. I am by no means an expert in giving advice on how to practice vegan or vegetarianism so, just eat meat. Also, it's really important to spread that protein across, a few different meals if you can. I have no problem eating, people that want to eat 3 meals a day, 3 meals and a snack, 4 meals or whatnot, just making sure you get that protein in during, a day, right? And not eating too close to bedtime. And include a various amount of proteins so you get an optimal amount of amino acid profiles. Okay, tip number 3 is optimize your sleep. This one is what I found one of the most elusive for people. You will never have an optimal hormone expression, a hormone profile, if you do not sleep well. I think the number one underrated health problem in this country is people that work overnights or graveyard shifts. I see this with a lot of nurses, firefighters. I look at blood work every week with people, and they have amongst some of the worst hormone profiles and inflammation levels. It's very, very difficult to have optimal physiology when you're not sleeping properly. If you're not following that natural circadian rhythm that we're designed to have, it's very, very difficult to recover and heal also. So making sure you're establishing like a pre-sleep routine that avoids like screens, try to relax before bed. And that saying that every hour of sleep before midnight counts as 2, it's kind of true. Following that natural cycle of sleep, you should be getting to bed, plenty before midnight. Myself, I try to get to bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock, and making sure you're setting like a consistent pattern. I see with people a lot, they are consistent through the week and then they get to the weekend and it's just sideways. Then they kind of start all over the next week. Also not great. You can totally undo healthy sleep patterns that way. Same ways you can totally undo like healthy eating and exercise patterns also. Sleep supportive aids, such as blackout curtains, cooling blankets, noise machines, all good. Just making sure you're getting natural sleep. Research shows that most human Homo sapiens need minimum of 6 to 8 hours. So you want to be able to shoot for that window if you can. Okay. Number 4, regular monogamous sexual activity. So stress the word monogamous. So this isn't promoting, just to go sleep around and, finding a bunch of different partners. This is a good way to build intimacy with your partner. If you're a single person, obviously, this is likely something you're desiring to have. So if you don't have it, it's not something that is an absolute must to have optimal testosterone levels, but it helps. Regular intimacy and prioritizing like connection and relaxation with your partner, exploring ways to like maintain desire for intimacy, trying new activities or focusing on like relationship building, scheduling regular date nights. This is something that I learned later on that is really, really important. Date your wife. Otherwise somebody else will. So like the science shows that frequent sexual activity, particularly like with the same person, is showed to support higher testosterone levels, like improving mood, bolster overall vitality. It just means that like having that like strong social connection with your spouse or significant other can improve your mental and physical well-being, and is correlated with optimal testosterone levels. Hydration. This is a big one, not just for testosterone, but for all bodily functions. I do a lot of blood work analysis with folks, and one of the most chronic issues I see is with comprehensive metabolic panels. We see higher concentrations of things like total protein and albumin. I can tell if you're not drinking enough water just based on your internal chemistry. You could have kidney stress. You have high protein concentrations. You want to make sure that, like, this is controversial, but I guess drink your half your body weight in ounces. Not a bad rule of thumb there. Getting more towards 100 ounces of water is desirable. Myself, I try to shoot for 120 to 30 ounces a gallon. And if you're shooting for that and that's what you want, I would say that try to work towards that slowly. You don't want to just start drinking a gallon in a day if you're only used to drinking 40 ounces, for example. Just start working your way up, increase 10 ounces a day until you get to where you want to be. You want to be able to be, urinating at least every 1 to 2 hours, light yellow to not totally clear, but, a light yellow. And, wherever you land there is probably close to half your body weight in ounces. Really, really important, for just optimal kidney processes, which are important for blood pressure, which is important for cardiovascular health, which influences your hormones. Your kidneys are a hormone producing organ. Reduces strain on the body, promotes balance. So just carry a water bottle with you everywhere you go. I always have this trusty 30-ounce bottle with me. It'll help you make sure you prioritize that. I can't stress this enough that routine de-stressing practices are very, very critical. This is a tough one, especially for, I would say for me, this was one of the hardest things because I'm so focused on, producing and achieving, doing. I'm a very focused doer, whether it's like at work or at the gym or, a project or, accomplishing something, checking the box. A lot of times you stuff stress and you forget that you're building up all this sort of internal anxiety. And, what can happen is it blows up here and there. And if you're not paying attention, it can cause a real problem in your life. And it's actually detrimental to your hormonal health. So practices like meditation are really critical. I try to do these every morning for 10 minutes, just giving myself space first thing in the day. All kinds of different apps out there. You could sit in silence. You could do a mantra. You could, have an app that just plays certain sounds. There is no right or wrong way to do it. Another great way I know for me to release and I guess just get stress out of my body is to be outside. Spend time outdoors. It enhances a lot of your experience in this life to just be breathing fresh air, having sun hit your eyeballs, preferably that early morning sun, just getting out and feeling the temperature on your skin. If you can get your feet in the grass, those are all really positive for de-stressing your body. Sun exposure. Speaking of sun, really, really critical. As you may know, sun exposure to your skin produces a hormone in your body called vitamin D. Vitamin D is absolutely critical for everything, every single thing in your body, your immune system, your hormonal health, your cardiovascular health, your brain health. All this stuff requires optimal vitamin D levels. Probably one of the things that I see that is the most deficient among where I'm at in the Northeast. A lot of people are deficient in vitamin D here. I'm a fan of supplementing vitamin D when necessary. However, optimally, you want to be getting sun every day for at least 15 minutes. Try to get some exposure on your skin, right? Whether it's your legs or your arms or your face or all the above. In the winter months, very difficult to do that. Red light therapy is nice, gets you a little exposure there. You won't get a lot of vitamin D production from that, but just natural sunlight as much as you can. Outdoor activities, and then supplementing vitamin D in the winter months. Myself, I do a 5,000 IU with vitamin K daily from the months of November through March. And that seems to keep my levels, right around the 50 to 80. I believe it's nanograms per deciliter when we're talking blood work. Number 8 would be minimizing your toxic loads. Hormone disruptors, right? We touched on this right at the beginning of the podcast. I talked about estrogenics, things that mimic estrogen in the body. So here's really simple ones. We're going to get deep into this in a future episode, but limiting plastic use. This is really important, especially plastic that has any exposure to sunlight or heat. You will get release of chemicals from that plastic, PCBs, etc., that get into your system and act as hormone disruptors. So limit your plastic use in general, whether you're, don't drink out of plastic, don't eat out of plastic, don't heat anything in plastic, like food and water. Don't microwave plastic. That's a big no-no. If you can choose, like whether you think organic is a scam or not, you want to try to choose produce that has as little pesticide, herbicide as possible. What we know is that stuff is bad news. That stuff is majorly estrogenic, whether we're talking about herbicides, pesticides on all your veggies and your fruits. Make sure you wash those. If you can choose organic, those do have lower levels of those herbicides, pesticides. And here's a big one, you guys. I'm not going to harp on the alcohol thing a lot, but avoiding alcohol. This is big. They're actually, beer and wine are more estrogen producing, but alcohol in general is a toxin. Alcohol crushes your testosterone. Alcohol crushes your ability to burn fat and build muscle, smashes your recovery. There's really no health benefits to alcohol. Some people that will try to tell you that red wine's good for you. It's not. We just like to hear good news about our bad habits. There's probably some studies out there that show like, one a day isn't going to kill you. But I tell you one thing that's for sure is none is better than some. So just limiting alcohol as much as possible. None is better than some. Myself, I choose to drink tequila if I'm going to have an alcoholic beverage. I no longer drink beer. I no longer drink wine. I limit my spirits. And if I'm drinking tequila, I'll do like a skinny margarita or a really nice tequila straight up. And I will do that on special occasions, the occasional date night, special occasions. And I enjoy the hell of it. So that's kind of my treat. But I don't do the sugar with it. So I don't do the dessert, but I'll do the occasional tequila. Here's I get questions a lot about supplements. So for my 9th point, we'll touch on supplements a bit. I'm not big on testosterone boosting supplements. Most of them are bullshit. Most of them are just wastes of money. Supplements in general, most of them are a waste of money. However, ones that I do believe in and ones that I do see changes on blood work that do make an impact are things like fish oil. Taking 2 grams of high quality EPA DHA does improve your cardiovascular and cardiovascular health, neurological health, and contributes to hormonal support. That's a big one. Methylated B vitamins, so really important for your stress response, like cellular energy. Overall, what you want to do is maximize your mitochondrial function, right? Your cellular energy. So B vitamins are coenzymes in a lot of these metabolic processes in the body. So taking a daily methylated B vitamin is really good, especially if you have like an MTHFR variant, which is a gene variant that makes it difficult for you to process vitamin B, or not necessarily vitamin B, but B12, folic acid. Myself, I have this variant, so I do a methylated B complex daily. I talked about vitamin D. I like it with K2, just improves the absorbability. Magnesium. Magnesium is probably one of the most deficient minerals when we're talking about the standard North American. Taking a nice magnesium, there's a bunch of different varieties. There's magnesium glycinate, citrates. There's all kinds of different ones. So myself, I stick to the magnesium glycinate. I find that one helps with sleep the most. So I do take it at night. It's a nice, easily absorbable and digestible magnesium. I stick with the magnesium glycinate before bed. CoQ10, I throw this one in the mix on occasion. If you are somebody who takes statin medications, I can tell you right now that you absolutely should be taking CoQ10. CoQ10 is another coenzyme that improves mitochondrial function. So this is a good one. Zinc is another good one. You probably heard this as a testosterone booster. Two more would be glutathione. Glutathione is your body's natural or your master antioxidant. So it aids in detoxification and liver health. And vitamin C. Vitamin C is really important. You should be getting like glutathione, vitamin C, zinc, magnesium, CoQ10, all from food. But a lot of our foods are deficient in these minerals, vitamins. So these are good ones to try to just kind of top up. And then the last one. So the number 10 I'll talk about today are things like recovery practices. So you could say that meditation and relaxation and whatnot is a recovery practice, but especially if you're somebody who trains, making sure that you have good recovery practices such as body care. We're talking like a routine mobility, type of routine, right? So something that you do, whether it's a daily basis or, before you train, just to warm your body up, to take care of your joints and your tissues. Practitioners such as chiropractors. Also, if you're doing things like cold tubs, saunas, massage, those are really nice ways to sort of relax and restore your body, right? So doing one of these a month, if you practice some of these daily, like the mobility and recovery, a chiropractic adjustment, red light therapy, a cold tub, and a sauna. You don't have to do all of those, but something that you're practicing as routine self-care. Integrating daily walking is really important for that sort of like recovery, just that restorative movement. I can tell you most of the problems I see as a chiropractor are due to non-movement. People that spend way too much time on their ass. When we were in British Columbia this summer on a fishing trip, and I was talking to my uncle, he's got this really beautiful boat that he has out on the Pacific there. And he had told me that most of the boats that are worked on, most of the boats that end up with problems at the harbor are boats that actually sit idle rather than out on the water all the time. So, and it just reminded me that our bodies are the same. Idle bodies tend to rot faster than bodies in motion. So just integrating, let's say it's 10,000 steps. Sure. That's another sort of arbitrary number, kind of like the half your body weight in ounces. But hey, if you're getting 10,000 steps in a day, I know you're walking a couple miles. I know you're moving your body. So that's good. So just aim for a mix of like passive and active recovery practices. If you're doing most, if not all those things, awesome. You're probably maximizing your natural production of testosterone. And I will add one more thing is I'm a huge advocate for knowing your levels. Measure your levels of testosterone routinely. You should be getting it done yearly. Even young men, young women should be doing this, like starting in your 30s. Everybody should, get the data, find out where you stand, monitor the data and the facts, and try to get these done yearly. This is something I do at my office. Of course, I have a hormone optimization platform called Weaponized Wellness. This is something I help a lot of men and women with. So if you want more information, just head to weaponizedwellness.com, or you can always check out my website, drryanhewitt.com. And if you loved this episode, please like, share, and tune in for future episodes. As I mentioned, we'll be hitting a metabolic. Next week, we'll do a movement. We'll do a mindset week 3. And we'll close out, of course, with an interview with an awesome person who's an expert in these categories. So look forward to talking to you guys next time. I'll see you soon.